up, everybody? I'm Jordan Robinson. Happy New Year. It is 2026, and so that is what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about our bold predictions for 2026 as women's basketball fans, as followers and fans of the WNBA. We have a lot to look forward to. I do anyway. I'm fingers crossing on all of my bold predictions for 2026 and we'll see if I am right. Um okay, let's start with the very first thing. My bold prediction for 2026 is that we do have a 2026 WNBA season. That is my hope. That is my dream is that we have a 2026 WNBA season. Now, there is still a lot to be desired from what we have read, what we have seen from the CBA deadline in 8 days. January 9th is the new CBA deadline, but like the other deadlines in the past, there could be an extension, but like we've talked about on this stream for multiple weeks, the more we get pushed back, the more we get into the expansion draft, the college draft, the free agency. There's so many things that needs to happen, and I I'm just hopeful, you guys. That's all I can tell you. The latest report is that the Players Association and the league are still very far apart on the very big issues. And that is a problem because, again, we're in the final countdown of this latest deadline. Alexa Philippou, wonderful reporter for ESPN, she talked about how the revenue share is still a huge, huge increase or emphasis for both parties. The league is saying we are going to give you 50% of net revenue and or gross revenue. The players want a revenue share 30% flat out. So there's so much conflicting reports as well as we can see in this tweet. The speculation that if it was a 10.5 million salary cap, then the league would have 700 million in losses over the course of the deal. That has been proven false from the union. They're not including expansion fees in that evaluation, which we know players and our cities are paying a hefty price to be a part of the WNBA. That has to be counted as league revenue. They're getting that money to be added to teams and into the league. So there's so much back and forth that we still are unsure about. But again, bold predictions slash hopes slash dreams that we have a 2026 WNBA season. Look, the other part of me wanting to have a 2026 season is that the league is planning to make a huge push that it's the 30th season of the WNBA. That since 1996, when the deal was done that a WNBA was going to happen, to the first season in 1997, this is going to be the 30th season. There's so much to be excited about, and I want that to happen. I want to be a part of that celebration. I want to be a part of those conversations where we can look back on the past 30 years of the WNBA and see how great it's been. But it's not looking good, the conversations heading into this 30th season. We're going to be there barely, but I hope we get there. Yeah, that's my bold prediction. We're going to find a happy medium where both sides are happy. Like we talked about last week, the players are willing to strike if necessary. The teams or all of the players in the league, 93% voted yes that the executive committee would be able to go on strike if necessary. So there is unity around that. And I hope that that made the league kind of shake in their boots a little bit, because a strike or a lockout is not going to be beneficial for either side. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So that's what my bold prediction is. Let's move on to the next one. All right. Azzi Fudd goes number one in the draft to the Dallas Wings. That is my next bold prediction for 2026. You guys know how much I am a huge Azzi Fudd fan, basketball wise, and her transition to a professional basketball player. I think she is going to make a smooth transition as a incredible scorer in the WNBA. Azzi Fudd right now is averaging over 18 points. She is second in the NCAA in three-pointers made, with 45 already on the season. Insane. 50%. Like, this is mostly threes and layups. 50% of any type of shot she's throwing up is going in. She is a certified bucket, and I have been fangirling about her nonstop, but I do see this as a prediction for 2026. Here is a potential Dallas Wings starting five. Dallas Wings fans, get excited if this is your starting five for next season. You got Paige Bueckers at the point guard. Then you can hand it off on the wing to Azzi Fudd. She's draining the three. Arike, if she decides to come back in free agency, then you have her on the other wing. That's buckets all around. Maddie Siegrist has shown crazy growth year after year, and she is going to be in Athletes Unlimited again this offseason, I believe. Or is she in Unrivaled? I actually am not sure about that. Either way, every single offseason, Maddie Siegrist has gotten better. And now you add her with the Paige in a second year. We don't know if Maisha Hines-Allen is going to be at that center spot. I think that is the big question for the Dallas Wings. That is why Azzi going number one is such a hot topic, because they do need a big. They really, really need a big. But I say, try to land one of those in free agency by telling them that you are going to draft Azzi. You don't have to sell Paige Bueckers because she's Paige. Go get a center, go get a big in free agency, and get Azzi with that number one pick. Okay? Okay. I see that in the chat. The Wings need a big. I hear you. I hear you. But I don't think it should come from the draft. That is my bold prediction. That is what I have been preaching from this Bleacher Report mountaintop for the past few months, that get a big another way and draft the best player in college basketball right now, which is Azzi Fudd. UConn is still holding on to that number one spot, and I don't see any other team beating them. And I think Azzi Fudd is a huge part of that, especially Sarah Strong, Sarah Williams, KK Arnold. They have a huge team that is defensively and offensively head and shoulders above the rest of college basketball right now. But Azzi is a huge part of that. And that's why I believe she should be the number one pick. And I'm calling it now. And when it happens, you guys can remember this stream and say I was right. Okay? Let's move on. I did want to pop over to the chat real quick. Fee got hurt. Yes. Fee has been hurt since the finals, since the playoffs, I should say. That was a huge announcement that she is going to miss the rest or the entire season of Unrivaled, which is a bummer because it was so fun to see her win one-on-one last season, to see her just really show off the incredible player that she is last year. But she's going to rest up. She has to have surgery on both of her ankles, is what is reported. Huge blow to the league that she created and founded, but also to Minnesota Lynx fans, to Unrivaled fans. Just hope that she can have a speedy recovery And I think that's what kind of transitions me to my next bold prediction, which is regarding the Minnesota Lynx, Nafisa Collier's team. Yes, she's a free agent, but I wholeheartedly feel like she is going to re-sign with Minnesota. But Minnesota is going to trade the number 2 pick. That is my bold prediction. They are sitting at that second spot in the draft. But I think with Fee, with the team that they have, if they were able to retain even 80% of their team from the last 2 seasons that have made a strong run at a championship, you're in win now mode. I think you need one more person to make sure that you can compete against the behemoths of the Liberty, the Aces, um, the Sun, who are or yeah, not the Sun, the Mercury, who have completely added on and have made their team stronger. The Lynx need to win now. So I fully put my trust in Cheryl Reeve and the front office and the Minnesota Lynx to make a really good trade to bring someone in who fits the culture. Just like we talked about Dejanay Carrington, even though she got hurt, coming over in the midseason to the Minnesota Lynx made perfect sense. It was a perfect fit. Her defensive mindset, her defensive attitude fit right into Cheryl Reeve's system. And so I think that they are going to make a decision with that number 2 pick to say, okay, if we get Awa Pham, if we have a Lauren Betts, all these other names that are kind of swirling in that top 5, Olivia Miles, I don't know if we really need them right now for what we're trying to do. I don't know if we can really put that much effort in to building them up. We need something immediate that can flow in what we're doing and go into the season. So when we look at this first round, there may be some of these teams that want to trade up. They want that number 2 pick. Maybe there's some teams that aren't even in this first round or barely in this first round that could say, "Yeah, we want a couple picks in this round because this draft is that good and we need to rebuild." While Minnesota is like, "Yeah, we don't really need that right now." So now we just have this thing to kind of float around and use as a token to get what we want. So that is my bold prediction regarding the Minnesota Lynx. I think that there is so much that Cheryl Reeve can do and have fun with dangling that number 2 pick in front of everybody, especially if for some reason Nafisa Collier is not ready to go by the beginning of the season or even mid-season. The report that's out right now is that she has surgery on both of her ankles. She's going to be reevaluated. So not even that she'll be ready to go, thumbs up, but she'll be reevaluated in 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. So I don't know if Minnesota is like, yeah, we'll just throw this season away if Fee isn't 100%. I think they have the number 2 pick and they can use it to still be in the conversation, still be in the top of the standings until Fee is 100% and ready to come back. Heartbreaking. I hate injuries. They are the worst thing ever. And I really, really hope that Fee is okay and able to rehab 100%. Let's go to the chat real quick before we move on. Let's go. We want to go back to this Dallas Wings conversation with AC going as the number 1 pick. I knew that was going to ruffle some feathers potentially, but let's see. The Wings need to pick Awa Pham and tank for 2027. They have been tanking for years. Whether on purpose or whether on accident, it's been bad for these past few years. I do not want prime Paige Bueckers' time to be tanked away. And I don't think anybody wants that. I want Paige to be on a decent team. I hated that there were times that I wanted to cheer and watch Paige Bueckers play basketball, and I had to suffer through that egregious coaching that was going down, and that coach is now let go, or the pieces that were kind of thrown together for Dallas by the mid to the end of the season. I had high hopes for Dallas at the beginning of the season. I was like, okay, Kurt Miller, I see what you're doing. You got the number one pick. You get Alyssa Smith, Dejanay. Like everybody was so excited. And then it just turned bad. I don't think Paige solely deserves another season like that. And then to expect by 2027 for them to kind of have it figured out, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team next year. I don't know if they're even going to be at the top half of the standings, but it needs to be better basketball, if that makes sense. Like there were some teams over the past few years who maybe their record wasn't great, but it was still okay to watch them. I think Connecticut Sun was one of those teams last year. Their record was awful, but they still put up a fight most nights, especially when Marina Mabrey came back and Sanaya Rivers was there. It was still fun to watch them. So that's what I think the Dallas Wings need to focus on. But getting AZ, yeah, I want to watch that. Will they win a ton of games? I don't know. But AZ and Paige together, yes, yes, please. Yes, please. Okay. I'll be surprised if Arike and Maisha Hines Allen are both on Dallas next season. I'm with you. I'm with you. We have done multiple strings where I have shipped Arike off to an expansion team. I have predicted that Dallas does not protect her because she wants to spread her Dallas wings and fly away to another opportunity. So, totally agree. Maisha Hines Allen is a very interesting WNBA player. She is a workhorse. She is a journeywoman. She has been on a bunch of different teams throughout the WNBA throughout her career. She hustles, but she is criminally undersized. And I think that is something that in the past has been okay because of just her demeanor, how she gets after it. And it's like, she's undersized, but she's going to go get those rebounds. She's going to guard as hard as she can, even players that are taller than her. But when we look at the league now, we look at the Asia Wilsons, the Stewies, the Nafisa Colliers, that four position is prime real estate. And you have to either have someone in that position to contend or defend, or have someone like an Alyssa Thomas who can defend any position on the court. Maisha Hines Allen isn't giving the scoring output that she is going to be able to make a difference on this Dallas Wings team. So I'm with you. I don't know if she would be a part of this team because of fit, but also because I want them to go get a scoring big in free agency. They had Tiara McCowan. Who knows what happened to that situation? What a weird season for her last year and then getting waived. Bizarre. So I hope that they can get a big in free agency and draft Azzi Fudd. Okay. Last thing here, I see the Lynx defense is complete gold. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love what Cheryl Reeve does to the Minnesota Lynx defense. But you know who else had some pretty great defense last season? The Las Vegas Aces, because they had the co-defensive player of the year winner in Asia Wilson. And so my next 2026 bold WNBA prediction is that this Aces team stays together and they go back to the finals. I think that we are in a very special time in the WNBA as we are looking at one of the greatest franchise runs that we're going to be able to see throughout WNBA history. Shameless plug, my book, Court Queens, is now available for pre-order, where I detail with my co-author Emma Baccelleri the history of women's basketball dating back to the 1800s. We talk about throughout that book the type of dynasties. We talk about the Houston Comets and how they won the first four championships in WNBA history. And it felt like they were on top of the world, they were untouchable, and we will always talk about them when we talk about great teams. We talk about the Minnesota Lynx from the 2010s and how they were able to go to the finals almost every single year in the decade and then win half of them. They were a dominant force for so long. The Las Vegas Aces is one of those teams. And I can just see them all coming back together and saying, look, we have something special. I think we all kind of questioned it after Kelsey Plum left. We questioned it at the beginning of last season when they were 500 at All-Star break. And then we were all quickly reminded A'ja Wilson is that girl. And if you add pieces around her with people who she trusts, she loves, and can score the basketball and defend, that's what it takes to make a championship team. And so when you look at this roster, their entire starting five are free agents. I think that they all come back for the greater goal of going to the finals and potentially hanging another banner in Las Vegas. But I also think a caveat to this, they need one more free agent. They need a little bit of a deeper bench. That's kind of the only asterisk that I can give for the Aces, or my dream for them for 2026 is just have one more weapon that they can sign. I think the best thing they could have done, which we saw happen in the playoffs and the finals, is get Dana Evans in free agency. I think that was so smart. She was being utilized in a perfect way. Hopefully, she is able to come back. But if not, just getting one more person. I've thrown out Marina Mabrey in past streams to just get a knockdown shooter. Will she come off the bench? Will she be in that starting lineup, kind of rotating through with Jewel Lloyd? There are possibilities and they are almost endless. I think it could be very, very fun to see what the Aces do. But more importantly, I think that they have the potential to just be in the conversation as one of the best teams in WNBA history, especially if they can go back to the finals again next year. So that's my bold prediction. We just start talking about them differently. I still don't even think the respect is 100% theirs for some reason. When I hear or see what's going on social media, the Aces are the real deal. And that championship run last year should have sealed it. But going again, yeah, A'ja Wilson is incredible. And I'm never, never betting against A'ja Wilson. So that's my bold prediction there. Chat says, yeah, I can see them in the finals again. Thank you. We can see it. We can visualize it. We can predict it. That's what we're doing here. Bold predictions. Okay. Last one for my bold predictions for 2026. So, there was a lot of talk about the USA training camp a couple months ago. A lot of people were questioning, what is this roster for? What are they trying to make the team? This is the first time we're kind of seeing Paige and also college players like Lauren Betts and Juju Watkins were invited to training camp. So much speculation around it. But most importantly, Caitlin Clark was playing basketball again, and she was a part of the training camp. And this was mostly talked about in the sense of Team USA and the Olympics, which is not for a while. What this is immediately for in the immediate future is for the FIBA World Cup in 2026. That is happening in September. The WNBA is going to pause their season for that time. Another reason why we need a CBA negotiation, we can't have the season start late because there is going to be a gap of time where the league is going to pause. That's what they've done in the past. Hopefully they can still do that if we don't We're having a 2026 season, guys. I'm just gonna keep saying that. I don't even want to say an option that it's not happening. But there is going to be a pause of time for the World Cup because everybody goes. It's a huge deal and it helps for the Olympics, right? My prediction is that Caitlin Clark makes the 2026 World Cup roster, of course. But the timing of that around September, playoffs are about to start. Indiana could be making a run for the finals because they got close this past year. Somehow they got close. They were in the mix. But I think she makes the roster but declines to rest for the WNBA playoffs. If anything showed us last year with Caitlin Clark and her injury is that she needed rest. She tried to come back too soon, too fast, too quick, and she re-injured herself. I know that she has been rehabbing like crazy to try to get back and honestly, I'm excited to see her play basketball again. Caitlin Clark is a very, very exciting player to watch. And that Fever team was super exciting. They were interesting. They really gave people a run for their money. So I think that depending on what free agents they are able to sign, if they have a really good thing going, they're at the top of the standings. I could see her saying, okay, cool, I made the World Cup roster, which probably means I'm going to make the Olympic roster. I'm just going to sit this one out because I want to bring home a championship to the Fever again. Haven't had a championship since 2012. So that's my bold prediction. I know saying Caitlin Clark in any type of sentence gets a little spicy, but I hope that she is healthy. I hope that we know that she's not playing in Unrivaled. Everything has been swirling around her with Project B, yada, yada, yada. She is focused on the WNBA season because that is where she plays. That is her job. And I think there could be some pushes to want her to play in the World Cup because of her star power and her notoriety. But she could be like, nope, I want to focus on getting a WNBA championship, which she is totally fine. I wonder what the backlash would be, but I totally agree and wouldn't be opposed to it. That's why I'm predicting it. Okay, let's go to the chat before we close this out. What do you think about the position the Atlanta Dream are in? The Atlanta Dream are interesting because they have Ryan Howard on a restricted free agent. So, yes, theoretically someone could come and offer her the bag and Atlanta Dream would have to match that. But I just think that Atlanta really did well last season. It was best case scenario. Best case scenario. You get the best of Alicia Gray in year 8. You have a new coach in Carl Smesko. He comes in, he's loved, he's liked. You sign huge free agents in BG and Brianna Jones, and it somehow works together. Pow Pow was a great, 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 great draft selection for Atlanta from South Carolina. So, with all of that, I think they just have to build. The only thing that I would say about the Atlanta Dream, I didn't believe when the light was the brightest that they were going to show up. And that's something that they need to work on. That's something that Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray need to just hold themselves more accountable on. Naz Hillman had her best season of her career. So they just can build off of last year. I think it's going to be great. Unless there's something else I don't know about going down, I'm just going off of their roster. They do have some free agents like a Bree Jones, like a BG. I would be curious if they could retain everybody because genuinely seem like they had a really good time last year. I've thrown out BG's name as potentially flying the coop just because she was coming off the bench for the first time in her career. Could that just be a role that she accepts because this is where she is in her career right now? Or does she try to go be that big that another team needs, like a Dallas Wing, type of team? So I feel completely confident in the Atlanta Dream next season. And you should too. You should too. Last one, Marina to the Aces. Okay. If this happens, I'm going to have my Bleacher Report family run back every single clip that I have said this prediction. I think her as a shooter for the Aces is a beautiful fit. Perfect. But who am I? I'm not a GM. I'm not getting GM money, so we'll see. I just make predictions here and hope that they come true so I can say I'm right. But again, these are my bold predictions for the 2026 year as a WNBA fan. First and foremost, I want there to be a 2026 season. It will be the 30th season of the WNBA. There's so much to celebrate. And my next favorite thing that is happening in 2026 is Unrivaled. Unrivaled is starting in just a couple of days for the second season. It's going to be so much fun. And there are so many of the executive committee there, so many players there that I know that they're talking about the CBA and talking about how they want a 2026 season. So, yes, there's going to be amazing basketball happening, but I know that there's also really important conversations happening in Miami and Unrivaled. Only to be a fly on the wall, that would be amazing. But I'll just be watching from home. You should too. Until next week, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me. Happy New Year. And I hope a very wonderful, joyful filled WNBA 2026. I'll see you guys next week.